Namaste nerds, this is Navana, the Budget Pub Stomper, and today we're going to be talking about an oldie goldie Korvold fae-cursed king. Somehow this is a deck that has just not been in my $100 queue until recently, and I've been working quite a lot on this deck for the last week or two. I kind of went down some dead ends and tried some things that just weren't quite getting me there. But for anybody who watched the podcast, I want to just take a quick detour to the podcast. So I'm doing a podcast with Nero. That was the last video that I put up on the Budget Pub Stompers channel. If you haven't seen it, go and check that out. But one of the things we mentioned in there was that, I don't know if it actually made the final cut, but we talked when we were doing the podcast about the fact that I was working on a $100 budget competitive catalog, and I had 97 decks in my $100 budget competitive queue, folder, roster, whatever you want to call it. And I am happy to say that the budget CDH folder on my Mox field is now up to 100 decks on the money. So for anybody who's not familiar with Dragon Daddy here, this is Korvold, fae-cursed king. This is a Jund and 2 colorless, so it's 5 mana total. Red, black, green, and 2. For a 4/4 flyer, whenever it ETBs or attacks, you sacrifice a permanent. And whenever you sacrifice a permanent, you put a +1/+1 counter on Korvold and you draw a card. So it is a nasty, nasty engine. It can be part of a win condition. You can do like food chain things with Korvold. I'm using it as a value engine in the deck, and I guess you could kind of say that it's part of my win condition in that in this deck that I'm going to be talking about today, it can crack my piles. And what do I mean? I'm doing some Goblin-y things, but I'm doing some Doomsday things. So Doomsday got a reprint, and it's one of my favorite cards of all time. I've always loved this card, even before it was breakable. Like, this card came out before it was quite able to be broken, but I always knew that one day this card would be busted. Doomsday is black, black, black. Search your library and graveyard for 5 cards, exile the rest, put the chosen cards on top of your library in any order. You lose half your life, round it up, and then you just hopefully win the game. But the problem with this card in a lot of decks, or the problem with just trying to put this in any old deck, is that it's a sorcery speed card, and you need to, you don't want to play that. Like, you don't want to pay 3 mana for your sorcery that exiles, like, all of your cards but 5, and then pass the turn with half your life left. So what you need in order to really be able to profitably play Doomsday in a competitive setting is you need a commander that will draw a card to crack the Doomsday pile. And if you're not following what I mean by cracking the Doomsday pile, when you set up your 5 cards, it's going to be 5 cards that are going to win the game. But if you just set those 5 cards on top of your library, if those 5 cards are just sitting there as your library and you can't access them, then you're not winning the game. So you need to use Doomsday generally in a deck that is going to allow you to pretty easily draw that top card. And then you're going to need to set things up in a way that if you were allowed to draw that top card, you can win the game from there. So the reason that I was using these Doomsday piles that were Goblin based is because that way we get 2 Doomsdays. Okay, so there's lots of kind of, I guess, things that we will consider backup Doomsday piles in the deck, but the main win lines with Doomsday or Goblin Recruiter are going to be this. Let's just go with Goblin Recruiter. We are going to put the goblins that we're interested in are Mog Fanatic, usually. That will not happen until after. So the Mog Fanatic actually won't even be part of your Goblin Recruiter pile. I mean, not exactly. You're going to go back for it while you're working through the combo. But the actual pile is going to be Kiki-Jiki, Torch Courier, and conspicuous snoop. So you're going to have conspicuous snoop, but if your conspicuous snoop is on top of your deck and you do something with your Korvold that allows you to draw a card, then you play your conspicuous snoop, it's going to be summoning sick. So the next card on top of the deck is going to be Torch Courier. And conspicuous snoop allows you to play the top card of your library if it's a goblin. And so if we've got our conspicuous snoop in play, then we can cast our Torch Courier off of the top of the deck, and then we can sacrifice it, and then we can you have to be careful about that because that's going to be a draw trigger for Korvold, so you need to make sure that you've got a goblin creature in between the Torch Courier and the Kiki-Jiki. Now, this is a little bit complicated, isn't it? Maybe I'll show it to you in Goldfishing. But yeah, you're going to end up in a situation, I guess suffice to say, you're going to end up in a situation where you've got conspicuous snoop in play without summoning sickness, and you've got Kiki-Jiki on the top of your deck. That's really what you're trying to set up with either the Doomsday pile most of the time, or the Goblin Recruiter pile most of the time. And if you've got the Kiki-Jiki on top, and you've got the conspicuous snoop in play without summoning sickness, the conspicuous snoop allows you to activate abilities of creatures that are on top of your deck with the snoop. So the snoop has the Kiki-Jiki ability. And the Kiki-Jiki ability says you can tap to put a token copy of target non-legendary creature onto the battlefield. And then you sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. So you can't use this guy to copy itself. Right? If it weren't for this little clause that it's non-legendary creature, you could just go infinite with just Kiki-Jiki on its own. But since it says non-legendary, you can't do that. Unless you have transferred that ability to conspicuous snoop. Now, if you transfer the ability to conspicuous snoop, now all at once, you can tap the conspicuous snoop to make a copy of the conspicuous snoop with the Kiki-Jiki ability, because the conspicuous snoop is not legendary. So you can tap the conspicuous snoop using that make a copy of target non-legendary creature ability of Kiki-Jiki to make a copy of the conspicuous snoop with the conspicuous snoop. So you can make infinite copies, or a billion copies of conspicuous snoop, but all but the last one are going to be tapped. So then what? Well, then on the last untapped conspicuous snoop, the last one you made a copy of, you're going to tap that last conspicuous snoop to make a copy of your Goblin Recruiter. And then that Goblin Recruiter token is going to ETB, and that is when you're going to go through your deck and find the Mog Fanatic. Then you're going to put the Mog Fanatic on top of your deck, and then these billion conspicuous snoops that you have in play are all going to have the activated ability of Mog Fanatic, meaning each one of them will have sacrifice Mog Fanatic. Mog Fanatic deals 1 damage to target creature. So they all have this sacrifice. They all have, and there's, trust me, this is the way the card works. I know it reads a little bit funny, but if all of your conspicuous snoops have the Mog Fanatic ability, they do all have the ability to sack themselves to burn out the table. That is a definitive, absolutely, you can take that to the bank. For sure that is a thing. This is a well-known, well-established combo. See some CDH play. It saw some modern play or legacy play. There's some version of this in 60 card. So that's probably going to be your main combo, or at least that's going to be the combo that most separates this deck list from others you may have seen in past. That is Kiki-Jiki combo with Conspicuous Snoop, using Goblin Recruiter to set the pile up, and using Doomsday to set up that same pile. Or there are many other ways that you can win the game with Doomsday, but it's going to depend, those situations are going to depend on what resources you have in play and how much mana and so on. Like I said, a lot of times it might just be as simple as cast your Doomsday and you're going to put like a protection spell on top of your library. Like your library will end up being like Bolt Bend to protect your commander, And then underneath that, you might have Dualcaster Mage, and under that, you might have Twin Flame. And then you've got like a Wild Canter and an Orcish Librarian in play, maybe a Mog Fanatic, and you sacrifice those things to draw the Doomsday pile cards, and then you just win the game from there. There's going to be a lot of context, right? That so much of what you're going to be doing with this deck is going to really depend on the table. And even whether you're the turbo deck or like the grindy mid-range value deck, even that is going to depend on the pod composition a lot. But I tried to build the deck in such a way that it can kind of do both things. It can be like, it can attack on either axis. It can be the turbo off and try to win ASAP deck. The deck is just jammed with mana. It is very, very simple to cast a turn 3 Korvold, and if you happen into a ritual, it's often trivial to cast a turn 2 Korvold. A lot of times when you have the option to cast a turn 2 Korvold, you maybe don't want to do that though, because then you end up munching like one of your last 2 permanents in play, and if you get blown out, if your Korvold eats a STP, you're going to be real, real sad. But just very, very simple to get a turn 3 Korvold. And the deck is not reliant on the Korvold. Now, the Recruiter pile and the Doomsday pile will be to some degree, because really to make them work well, you're going to need to draw a card immediately, or you're going to have the ability to draw cards immediately. And Korvold is going to be that card draw engine. But there's other ways you could do it. You could have like a Deadly Dispute in your hand, and then use the Doomsday pile, and you could crack the pile by sacrificing a creature with Deadly Dispute. But for the most part, you're gonna want your commander in play to do the Doomsday piles. But there are like very, very commander agnostic win lines in the deck. We've got kind of some of your just classics, like Hoarding Broodlord is fast becoming one of the most played combo pieces in budget competitive. I think it maybe just is the most. No, I don't know about that, but it's one of them. It's up there. It's like getting up there with like Dualcaster Mage. But Hoarding Broodlord, it just fits the deck well. I really kind of didn't want it in the deck, but it almost forced its way in. It was just like, by the time I looked at the cards I did want in the deck, Hoarding Broodlord was like, I don't know, I had to put Hoarding Broodlord and like one more card in to get an entire like whole swath of ways to win the game, aside from what I already had. It's like the deck already wants the Pinnacle Monk, the deck already wants the Sawn Half. This deck, my version of Korvold, already wants the Peer into the Abyss. And so if you're going to play Peer into the Abyss and you've got the Dualcaster Mage, then you might as well play the Sawn Half. And if you're going to play, because you've got Mayhem Devil, and if you're going to play those, you may as well put the Hoarding Broodlord in. If you're not familiar with the way Hoarding Broodlord works, usually it's going to work by just dumping it into the graveyard and then reanimating it. And I settled on 2 Entomb effects and 2 reanimate effects, and I tried to make it so that my transmutes would always have targets. So, and what I mean by that is, like, if we go to the standard Dualcaster Mage combo, I've got the Dualcaster Mage at 3 mana. So if I get the Dualcaster Mage in hand and I have any transmute tutor, then I definitely can find a way to win the game with my Dualcaster Mage, because my transmutes are at 3 mana and 2 mana. And so even though Twin Flame is $5, that Twin Flame unlocks 2 of my transmute tutors and gives me, where normally I would have like an A plus B combo here, now I get an A plus B combo, but now instead of just having 1A and 1B, I've got 1A and 3 Bs, or, well, 3 As and 3 Bs, I guess is how you'd really look at it. And I tried to do the same thing with the Entomb and Reanimate effects. That's the way we're going to go with the Hoarding Broodlord, is by using one card to put it in the graveyard and another to bring it out of the graveyard. When you bring it out of the graveyard, it's going to search your library for a card, exile it face down, and you'll be able to play that card from exile, and you can play it. It'll have Convoke, so you can Convoke cast it. I feel like I'm I'm not doing great on time. All right, I'll try to speed through this. When you get the Hoarding Broodlord, I guess the simplest line is going to be you're going to tutor for your Saw in Half. Saw in Half says destroy target creature, then make 2 copies of that creature. They're smaller, but who cares? So you will tutor up your Saw in Half, and you will Convoke cast your Saw in Half, tapping the Hoarding Broodlord to help you cast the Saw in Half. You'll hit your Hoarding Broodlord with the Saw in Half. You'll make 2 Hoarding Broodlords, and one of them is going to find Burnt Offering, and the other is going to find Peer into the Abyss. And then your Burnt Offering, you will Convoke cast to make any combination of 8 mana in red or black. Red and or black. And the other, so you're going to have your Hoarding Broodlord that has the Sacrifice or Burnt Offering. And then you're going to have the other one is going to have Peer into the Abyss. And that will allow you to Convoke cast the Peer into the Abyss. And so the way all this is going to boil down, without having any like mana dorks or rituals or lands that are not tapped, just what I've explained there, you will draw half of your deck with 2 mana floating in any combination of red or black. And this deck is set up to win the game from that situation. Now, obviously, when you draw half your deck, it's going to be hard to lose most games. But I mean, this deck is set up to win the game on the spot. You're unlikely to have to pass the turn. Anything's possible. Sometimes you might have to pass the turn, but we've got like Culling Ritual, Infernal Plunge. Like the bottleneck is mana. You need to find mana to get your combos to work, your actual kill condition combos to work. But with like Infernal Plunge and Culling the Weak, Dark Ritual, Song of the Damned, which is this is maybe the best deck that I've ever had for using Song of the Damned. So much of our early mana ramp is based on like literally killing creatures, like sacrificing creatures like Tinderwall, which is also a ritual for going off with Peer into the Abyss, Wild Canter, Orcish Lumberjack, I guess doesn't count. Reckless Barbarian, Impulsive Pilferer. You're piling creatures into your graveyard. Blood Pet. So Song of the Damned is a very good ritual in this deck. So most of the time, if you do the Peer into the Abyss thing with the Hoarding Broodlord, you're going to win the game on the spot. Now, there's another line, but it's like 12 steps, and it's been in some of my decks before. Go back to my original, I think it might be even in the new Kefka build. Look at my Kefka decks, or for sure my Velgavoth. Upgrade like your Precon into a CDH deck or a budget competitive deck. The Hoarding Broodlord with all of the lines, all of the steps to do Hoarding Broodlord, Pinnacle Monk, Saw in Half, and just kill the table with a never-ending string of Pinnacle Monks and so-ons is not something I'm going to get into in this video, but it is a deterministic kill that we have access to in the deck. But I wanted to have this other... Well, honestly, I wanted to run Peer into the Abyss because my deck is super good at making 7 mana. Like, it is not hard to get to 7 mana with this deck. And, like I said, the deck is also built to be able to win off a resolved Peer into the Abyss. So you've got the line to use the Hoarding Broodlord to kind of cheat into a Peer into the Abyss with mana floating. But they're all... And because that is the case, your Pinnacle Monk actually gets to be a Pinnacle Monk. It gets to be a... it gets to be a Pinnacle Monk Mystic Peak. You absolutely can feel fine about running this out as your land drop for a turn. No problem. Because you're still going to be able to win the game without the Pinnacle Monk with your Hoarding Broodlord line. And then I think I already pretty much explained the other win conditions. The other win conditions in the deck are Dualcaster Mage Twin Flame, or you can do, and for anybody who's not familiar, the Dualcaster Mage is a fork on a body. and Twin Flame, so we've got a 2-mana Twin Flame, which is just Twin Flame. And then we've got Electro Duplicate at 3 mana. So this is what I was talking about. If you have your Dualcaster Mage and either of your transmute values, either 2 mana or 3 mana, you will always be able to find the A to your B or the B to your A. So you can find your Electro Duplicate or find your Twin Flame. You will cast the Twin Flame or Electro Duplicate, targeting some creature. You will hold priority, and you will flash your Dualcaster Mage into play. The Dualcaster Mage is going to come into play. It's going to ETB, copying the Twin Flame. So you're going to have another Twin Flame. That Twin Flame is going to come in as a copy of Dualcaster Mage. So Twin Flame just makes a copy of target creature, and the Dualcaster Mage copies a spell. And so you just end up in this situation where you're going to put like a billion Dualcaster Mages into play. And if it's pre-combat, you'll swing out and murk the table. If it's post-combat, then you'll have to have like a Mayhem Devil, or when they sacrifice, you'll be able to draw your deck with Korvold and put something together. So the Korvold is kind of a combo outlet, or it helps with a lot of the combos, but they are still commander agnostic combos. Then we've got the Saw in Half that we talked about before. Saw in Half is another way to win the game with Dualcaster Mage. There's actually lots of ways to win the game with Dualcaster Mage and Saw in Half, but just a kind of basic way to do it is you can do kind of the same thing where you're going to Saw in Half and then you flash in your Dualcaster Mage. And the Saw in Half is going to blow your Dualcaster Mage up and make 2 Dualcaster Mages. Where's the Saw in Half? So this is the one that blew up the Hoarding Broodlord and made 2 Hoarding Broodlords. Well, now in this line, it's going to make 2 Dualcaster Mages. One of them is going to copy the Saw in Half, and the other one can copy anything you want to put onto the stack. So if you have a Lightning Bolt, now you can Saw in Half, Dualcaster Mage, Lightning Bolt. And now you've got this repeating pattern where every Saw in Half makes 2 Dualcaster Mages. One Dualcaster Mage copies the Saw in Half, and the other Dualcaster Mage copies the Lightning Bolt. And now the Dualcaster Mage is going to get chopped in half by the last Saw in Half, which is going to make 2 more copies, and they're going to copy the Lightning Bolt and the Saw in Half. And so you've got infinite Lightning Bolt damage if you're post-combat, or you can like in-step your Saw in Half Dualcaster Mage, because Saw in Half is an instant. And then when you go to your turn, you'll just have a billion 1/1 Dualcaster Mages, and you can just run them into combat and kill everybody that way. So you see what I mean? Like the Hoarding Broodlord, like I wanted to play Peer into the Abyss. I had Dualcaster Mage as a big part of the deck. And so it's like I might as well put the Saw in Half in. And at that point, I'm basically at the Hoarding Broodlord. I'm not going to build a red X deck that has a lot of instants and sorceries and not include a Pinnacle Monk, right? So it just made sense to add it in. Kind of the same way with the Hyrax Tower Scout. Now, this is probably the deadest card in the deck, but I think because Korvold can just munch it for a value, I'm not that worried about it. And it's like having the addition of a Hyrax Tower Scout made Kiki Jiki into another way to win the game. So you've got tons of ways to win the game. All you have to do is survive long enough. And we have got tons of ways to survive long enough. What I mean by that is we are ramp.deck. Like we have so much freaking ramp in this deck. We've got the mana batteries like Blood Pet and Reckless Barbarian. We've got the Simian Spirit Guide and the Elvish Spirit Guide, the little ritual guys, which are also super good with Peer into the Abyss. So we've got Skirk Prospectors, we've got Impulsive Pilferers, but we've also got just all of the Mana Dorks. Elves of Deep Shadow, Elvish Mystic, Fintorn Elves, Gilded Goose. We're going that deep. Gilded Goose is great in this deck because it gives you a piece of material to sacrifice to the Korvold, or if you don't need the Gilded Goose to cast the thing, you actually are going to get 2 pieces of material to sacrifice to your Korvold. So if you just like actually have your Korvold in play and cast your Gilded Goose for 1 mana, you have 2 pieces of material that you're going to be able to use to draw cards off of Korvold. And I guess if you're like in a real late game situation trying to grind value with Korvold, you'll have this ability to pay 2, tap, create a food token, and you can sacrifice that food token to add a mana. When you do that, you can draw a card, or you can just use the food token as sack fodder. Goldhound is one of these mana batteries. Treasure or Strike It Rich. We've just got all of them, and then all the rituals, Infernal Plunge and Culling the Weak and Dark Ritual. We are playing Harrow, which is actually really good in this exact version of the deck. So we're only playing like the best mana rocks. We've got Soul Ring and Arcane Signet, and in this deck, Pentad Prism is another very good mana rock. This is going to allow you to get 2 mana of any of your colors, but also it leaves this Pentad Prism, this piece of cardboard, behind. So it's a mana battery, but you don't need to sacrifice it. You can get the 2 mana back out of it and then use the Pentad Prism as the thing that you sacrifice to Korvold when Korvold ETBs. It's fantastic here. But yeah, we've got lots and lots of mana. We're playing more lands than normal, 34 including the MDFC. But we really do want to include the MDFC because we're going to be able to actually use that as a land in this deck, which isn't always the case. Sometimes your Pinnacle Monk is too pivotal to your strategy. That's not going to be the deal here. Nature's Rhythm becomes a 1-card win condition in this deck, again because of the addition of the Hyrax Tower Scout. We are able to use the Nature's Rhythm to find Kiki-Jiki, put it into play, and then we can use the Harmonize ability to find the Hyrax Tower Scout, and Hyrax Tower Scout plus Kiki-Jiki just wins the game. But I was talking about we need to just live long enough to be able to get enough mana to win the game. And the 2 ways we're going to do that is with all the crazy rituals and all the mana acceleration. We're playing just tons of it. And just piles of really good interaction. And I think Culling Ritual is the one piece that bridges the gap between both parts of our strategy. Our strategy is to live long enough to win the game. And we're doing that by thwarting our opponent's plans, protecting our own, blowing up their stuff, and ramping ahead with ours. And Culling Ritual encapsulates all of that. It's going to blow up everybody's boards, and it's going to be like a big mega ritual. If you've never resolved this in a more competitive game, it's crazy. Like very often it's making upwards of 10, 12 mana. And that's going to allow you to cast a Peer into the Abyss with a bunch of mana floating, and you don't lose those games, you know? So then the interaction. Culling Ritual. Abrupt Decay. Assassin's Trophy. Autumn's Veil. Bolt Bend. We've got it all. You know, Lightning Bolt. Flare of Duplication. This is a wicked good Flare of Dupe deck. Fatal Push. We've got... so we've got like the best interaction. Like Jund has really good interaction. I was gonna say even on a budget. I'm gonna say especially in the budget context. There's two ways to look at it. Well, I guess we'll just put it this way. This is another one of my decks where I intend to prove that speed is relative. So it doesn't really matter if we are going turbo fast or if we are junding our opponents out by popping all their stuff, protecting our stuff, drawing cards, being able to really mitigate the fact that it's bad to trade 1-for-1 by having a big ass dragon in play that first of all is going to just keep replacing our cards that we're using up, but also just fueling more and more win attempts, putting more and more win attempts into play. So this is just like the deck that I feel like is it's going to give the table both barrels. You're just going to give them both barrels with Korvold. Korvold is going to interfere with their decks just enough to, you're in kind of a lot of times when you're playing combo deck versus combo deck, you're in a foot race. You're just speeding off to see who can combo off first. But with this deck, we're going to do that, yes, but we're also going to be sticking our feet out to trip our opponents in this race to see who can combo off first. And we've got the tools to do that. We've got the tools to very quickly get our game plan online. Goldfish turn 4 victories. And if we get stopped, we've got plan after plan after plan, and we're drawing card after card after card. We've got like a sick value engine that's drawing tons of cards. We've got all kinds of interaction to stifle our opponent's win attempts, and we've got layered combo after layered combo after layered combo. And if none of that works, if we just are in this like dead heat where everybody is just like, I don't know, maybe one player's got the board kind of stacked out, we've got a control player in the pod, and then there's two of us that are just kind of trying to combo off and stopping each other, and the thing just isn't going anywhere. Well, Korvold's gonna get fucking big. In those situations, Korvold gets big. I mean, the dude gets like jacked. Even for a dragon, he gets jacked. I've seen this guy 14-14. So you will get to a point where you're like able to not just pressure people, but if not one-shot them, like two-shot them with your big-ass flying Korvold dragon. I think we have gone past the Goldfishing time. I don't know, man. I was going to say let's take a look at this first hand and see if it's a good one, we'll goldfish, and if it isn't, we won't, and I don't know if it is or not. This is it's a very mediocre hand. This does look like a turn 3 Korvold. We've got a shred memory and a persist, so probably this would be a game where unless things changed in the first 3 or 4 draws, we'd be looking to Hoarding Broodlord people to death. Maybe let's take a look. And of course we've got a backup plan here of Kiki-Jiki. Let's put that away. Draw. That got better. Alright, tap that for green. We've got 2 counters on this. These things are great in this deck because we're fine to just eat them. We're fine to eat them with Korvold. Sequencing is a little bit tricky in this deck sometimes. Could probably go like this. Oops. Like this. And then tap this and this to play this, so we don't have to take another counter off of that. And we'll go to a turn 3. This will usually make 2 or 3 of our colors, but we're all set on colors. We're not worried about that. And so now we just need to decide like how we want to play Korvold, or if we want to play Korvold. We may just want to start looking for the Hoarding Broodlord win here. We could just go put a black mana into this to make black, tap that for whatever, to transmute this to find our persist. Oh, we've got the persist to find our unmarked grave. And then on the next turn, okay, this would take 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so we could transmute this, and then we could transmute and cast the unmarked grave, putting Hoarding Broodlord in the graveyard. Then on our next turn, we'd be able to persist it. We're only 1 mana off from being able to persist it now. Can we actually do? No, that's close. Or you could establish your value engine. You could just play your Korvold out and start rocking and rolling with Korvold. I really don't mean it's going to depend on the pod composition, but either of those are valid options. I've already talked to death about how we might look to win the game on the next turn, which is turn 4, Commander Agnostic win. We've got it. We've definitely got it. It's not like it doesn't depend on anything. It's we can do that. But let's see what happens if we just play our commander out. So we'll go 1, 2. There's 2 on this. 3, 4, 3, 4, 5. And we will play Korvold. We'll sacrifice that. We'll put a counter on Korvold. We'll draw a card. We'll tap this to cast that. And we will go to a turn 4. So this is if we were doing the just grindy value engine-y plan. Oh, we found the wrong half of we found another A. We've only got 2 A's in the entire deck, and we've got both of them. Kind of lame. That kind of sucks. The life part of this is actually pretty good in this deck. You can use it to have stuff to sack to Korvold, or to whatever effects you've got. Well, we elected not to do that thing. I mean, we could still do it. So now maybe we're like, yeah, hell, maybe I should have done the persist plan. Is there anything else? I wish we had well, you can wish in one hand and shit in the other and see what fills faster. That's what my dad always said. That's what my daddy always said. Do we want to develop this? Does it even make sense to develop it? I mean, we could as just kind of like a way to throw people off of what we're really trying to do. Or now we could look to do the Hoarding Broodlord thing. But you guys see where we're going with this, right? Like, we can. What are the options? I mean, really, I think everything's just pointing to us going for the Hoarding Broodlord, or the only other thing we could do is we could transmute this into a tutor for. We could transmute it into a creature tutor, and use the creature tutor to get our Hyrax Tower Scout. But yeah, that seems like taking the long way home for no good reason. So maybe let's just do this. Let's go black, colorless, shred memory. Yeah, we're just going to end up doing this anyway. Unmarked grave. But at least we've got our guy in play now. Oops. And if anybody was holding up interaction, real good chance that they would have elected to keep that for Korvold and burnt it on our Korvold, which we definitely tapped that mana wrong. By the way, let's retap that and act like we're good at this game. The better way to do it would have been to sacrifice the Tinderwall, put a counter here so we have 2 red floating, draw a card. And then we would have put the red mana into this to get black, and then use the other red. So that's red. One of the red goes into this to get our black. That's the transmute. And then that way we can use this to actually play the unmarked grave and put the guy into the graveyard. Anyway, we could come up with another one singular other mana. Nope, we're still in that same boat. So the options were so now look, we just go, well, not like that. Like this, we go... unmarked grave, Hoarding Broodlord, into the grave, and maybe before we even did that, we could have put 1, 2 mana into this. And we'd still have 1 counter on this then. And the only reason I'm saying that is because then we might want to munch this. We might want to go to combat and eat this. Maybe that's a little bit less painful than eating our guy. I don't think I put a counter on him. So we could go to the next turn, and now we win. Either persist. Well, I guess the nice thing here too is now if we went to persist, I don't know why I keep wanting to tap like a moron. Persist and get the Hoarding Broodlord out. If somebody counters it, which they very likely might, we can just cast this. We've got very good backup. Just cast it that way instead. So yeah, we could have developed our engine and then went for a turn 5 win, or we could have just left Korvold in the command zone and tried to just go kind of a turbo reanimator plan. Well, that's cool. You got to see kind of a lot of what the deck's doing. Let's restart. First 7. We normally don't want to have the Hoarding Broodlord in hand. Other than that, it's not a bad hand. We've got a turn 3 Korvold. We've got a tutor. Yeah, let's run. Really don't like having the Hoarding Broodlord in hand. Now let's see what happens. Turn 1. Next turn. Turn 2 is going to be... Yeah, we are easy mode on the turn 3 Korvold. Alright, so we've got 2 counters on that. Turn 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Burn this. 5. Cast that. Eat the dork. Draw a card. That way we get to keep our 2 pin-tap prism counters. So we've got 2 mana of any color. If we wanted to cast our Reckless Fireweaver, we could. I don't suppose there's much sense in that. We could do that at any point we want to. So let's just go to another turn, see what happens. Probably play this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we could tap our Korvold and actually cast our Hoarding Broodlord. Isn't that crazy? This deck makes a lot of mana very fast. So we could just do that. You know, we definitely have a line there. I think we actually go ahead a mana by casting Reckless Barbarian, because we use 2 mana to cast the Barbarian, and then we can convoke with the Barbarian, but then we can still sacrifice this for 2 mana after we convoke. So we actually could do the Reckless Barbarian now, or I'm sorry, the Hoarding Broodlord Saw in Half line now. We'd have creatures to convoke. So we could try that. I kind of just want to have a different look, show you a different thing that the deck can do. I think this almost is going to require just going to another hand. So yeah, we could do the Hoarding Broodlord thing again, but let's not. This is interesting. This is different. This is a different look. Let's play this out. Oh no, we did not want to do it that way, did we? Shit, that's the only way there was to do it. I was thinking this was going to be a damn fast Korvold, but that would be 4, 5, 6. So we go 1, then sack it. So that's 4, 5, Korvold, sack this. I mean, that's a turn 2 Korvold, but like I said before, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So I think we probably should not do that. In fact, I don't think we should have done really any of that. So what would the best turn 1 play have been? Maybe this. And then we would have gone to our turn 2 and done this. Maybe. Or since we're almost not, like, virtually guaranteed to not want to sack a land, maybe we do Blood Pet instead. Then next turn, one, 2, 3, 4, 5, Korvold, Munch. No. Munch. This thing doesn't leave play unless, yeah, it's at the end of your turn if you don't control a creature. Put a counter on, draw a card, go to our next turn. Alright, now we're gonna do could do recruiter things now. Now we can do recruiter things. So we'll tutor for the recruiter. And we'll go, and now we still have this, all the while we've had the Flare of Duplication up. We've got a creature in the graveyard, and we could have elected to play this guy out instead. So we've always had access to a red creature to sacrifice for our Flare, which I think is nice. I think this is a good Flare deck. Maybe we do play this in case we want to sacrifice it with this. So now we could just go for the, let's see. Let's do this. Let's just play it nice and slow, nice and safe, and we will play this guy. We'll go to combat. We'll sacrifice that. We'll put a counter on. We'll draw a card. If we need to, now we've got really good interaction. We've got recursion. We've got way to counterspell spells or copy whatever. So probably we're able to stay in the game anyway. Somebody tries to win with Selvala, we murder their Selvala. Go to our next turn. And now decisions. Probably we tap this and this. We have a green floating. We sacrifice that for 3 reds. We have 4 mana, 3 of it's red. We add a counter, draw a card. Grind engine engaged. We use 1 of our mana. Well, we use 2 mana, but 1 of our red and probably our 1 green, leaving 2 mana floating to cast Goblin Recruiter. And the Goblin Recruiter is going to find Kiki-Jiki. And Tower Sky, or Kiki-Jiki and Conspicuous Snoop. And Torch Courier. And we need to put some kind of another goblin in here. I don't remember what other goblins are in the deck. We've got what's the goblin? Goblin Crater Maker. Okay, so this is gonna be our pile for now. We just need to make sure this Crater Maker is a card we can draw. When we sacrifice our Church Courier, it's gonna trigger Korvold, and we're gonna draw a card. So we need to not draw the Kiki-Jiki. So the way this is all gonna go is the Kiki-Jiki is going to be on bottom. Okay, then that guy, then this guy, then this guy. And we will go to combat and munch a thing to crack our pile. Maybe we munch this land, add a counter, draw a card. I think we wanted to not do it that way, because when we do it that way, we wasted the red mana. Yeah, we've got to back that up. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, because we've got the cards we need on top. I think we would just have to maybe do this. We'd cast a Regrowth and whatever we want to regrow. Maybe this guy. Doesn't really matter. The reason we're casting the Regrowth is because we need to sacrifice this something to the Flare of Duplication. So we get a sack trigger. So we get 2 Regrowths, and we'll just regrow that. And a draw trigger. Because we need to do this without changing phases, because we still have 2 red mana floating. So there is our 2 red mana. And now we can cast things off the top of the deck. So we will tap this for a red. to cast our Skirk Prospector, and, or maybe just to keep it simple, we're running out of time. We'll just cast the Kirk's Prospector. Skirk, the fucking Torch Courier. Courier? Now we're going to sacrifice the Torchy Boy, which is going to proc our Korvold, which is going to cause us to draw a card, which is why we had to put that Goblin in between those two. We had to make a Goblin Crater Maker sandwich, because we needed Kiki Jiki on top. But we were going to draw a card, and we don't want to draw the Kiki Jiki, so that's what this guy was in there about. So now, this guy has the abilities of goblins on top of our deck. We tap it to use Kiki Jiki's ability to make a copy of target non-legendary creature, copying this guy. And make a copy. Alright, so then this guy comes into play, and we tap it to make a copy. And we tap that one to make a copy, and we tap that one to make a copy, and we make a billion of them, and then we have one that's untapped, and we will tap it to make a copy of the Goblin Recruiter. Well, I guess we don't have to. We put this guy on top, didn't we? Yeah. We don't always have to do that, because oftentimes we're not going to have the ability to actually get this guy off the top of our deck. With Korvold, we usually will. But let's just say we don't have the ability to get this guy off the top of our deck. We can tap the Conspicuous Snoop to make a copy of the Goblin Recruiter, and we can search our library for any number of goblins and put them on top of our deck, and we will just put the Torch Courier on top of our deck. Now our Conspicuous Snoops have the activated abilities of goblins on top of our deck, including the Torch Courier's ability to sacrifice itself to ping the table, and we will sacrifice all of our goblins to murder the table. Now, some of you might get wise and think, well, wait a second, aren't you going to deck yourself in the process? Well, no, you're going to draw as many cards as you want first, because all of these are going to be procking Korvold. You're going to sack them all the ones that you want to draw as many cards as you'd like, and then you just need to make sure that you murder your Korvold in the process, right? Or find a way to kill your Korvold while you're flipping through the deck, however you want to do it. Cast a Twin Flame, because you've got your Skirk Prospector. Cast a Twin Flame the Korvold. Sacrifice the version of Korvold that has all the counters after you've went through a whole bunch of your deck. And then shoot down the remaining Korvold with pings, and then ping out the opponents. You can't really not win. It's just you kind of have to think your way through it sometimes. Sometimes it gets a little bit complicated. That's the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Please go and watch and like and love and subscribe to the new podcast. Well, what am I saying? You can watch it through my channel, or you can go and watch it through his, or both. Do both. But watch it here. It's going to be here. It's going to be probably weekly or bi-weekly, something like that. And I'm still going to keep running these deck techs, because I want this to be the largest online source of $100 budget competitive decks on the internet. I think it is now, and I don't think it's going to be too much work to, well, of course it's going to be a lot of work, but if I just keep doing what I'm doing, I think it'd be very difficult to not stay the biggest hub for budget competitive decks on the internet. I've got, I don't know, 50, 60 deck techs right now. There's, like I showed you earlier, there's 100 decks as of today in my little queue. Well, that's it, guys. That's the video. Until next time, word to your collective mothers, word to your father, east side until the day that I die. Peace be with you. May the force be with you, not with you. Namaste. I was going to say bitches, but that's it. Namaste, nerds.